Arby, how you doing? It's Wednesday, and a happy Wednesday to you and yours. I'm here with the and I do mean multi-talented, Mr. Jim Meskimen. Whether he's acting, doing impressions, making us laugh, he can do it all. And actually, Jim, I'm going to even say you even made me cry, believe it or not.
Did I? Oh,
You
well.
you did.
Did I step on your foot when we were dancing one time?
Well, if you seen me dance, you would probably cry because I have I have no moves. But so going through the this wonderful world we call the interwebs to
Yeah.
do research and find out all this amazing things about you. Um, as I'm going through your YouTube channel and watching, your different impressions, you do things every day, your celebrity fortune cookies.
Yep.
I actually came across a tribute you did to Robin Williams where you wrote a poem
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
and you recited it, and it was so powerful and amazing. And by the end, I was in tears watching it.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, that was a big day. Big day. I couldn't get my mind off it. It was, it's like one of those things that people remember. That's a big day. And I wrote that
Yeah,
poem. It was very popular, and I've had many people come up and say that it meant something to them. It was one of those things that I just absolutely had to do something with. I just felt really compelled, and so yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Is this the stare down contest portion of the show?
now do you do that? Do you do that like often the poem, or was it just like a one time thing?
Oh, well, I mean that was just to address the what was happening at that time, and I
Right.
have performed it occasionally, but it's not it's not an overtly entertaining thing, but it is a tribute to
Yeah.
Robin. And I did his voice and have done his voice for years for Disney, for
Okay.
projects that he originated. Of course, the Blue Genie, the great Blue Genie from Aladdin. Oh, 10,000 years will give you such a pain in the neck. I've done that for a long time, and he approved of my impression, which was nice when he was alive, and I continued to do it here and there. And so and he actually got a very big break, not his start exactly, but a very big break from the show that made my mother famous, Marion Ross, Happy Days, where Mork, it's almost now it seems very very surreal, but it was Mork from Ork appeared in the Cunningham household first on American television.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. It was a revelation. I mean, he really struck the scene like a thunderbolt, and
He did.
there's a reason why we remember him fondly. In fact, Tamara and I, my wife and I, were just watching The Fisher King the other night
Okay.
with Jeff Bridges, and I remember seeing it when it came out, and I thought I remembered it. I didn't remember a thing of that movie. It's a really good movie. It's a Terry Gilliam film, but one of his more coherent ones, I'd say, or less baroque ones, let's say. And I thought Robin was great. It's a great role for Robin. He plays a kind of a crazy street person who he believes he's a knight, and he's had this terrible trauma in his life, and he's trying to rectify that, and he's trying to help Jeff Bridges, and he's just all about enthusiasm and love and pleasure, and pathos and sadness and I don't know. It's a very wonderful, full spectrum performance by him, and there's really nobody like him.
It's true. It's so true.
There's something on your shoulder there. What is
Yeah,
it?
I got
Is that a
my
towel?
my co-host.
Oh,
It's
very nice.
funny. I sit here and do all my work all the time. This is my little workstation, my little work area. The cat never comes up unless I'm doing one of these interviews.
They're so smart, cats. They're so smart. They
It's
know
too
where the
funny.
attention is focused, and they go to that spot. I used to have a cat that would come. I'm an illustrator, cartoonist. That was my first career, and you'd have a piece of paper that you're working on, and you focus a lot of attention if you're an artist on that page and on that drawing that you're working on. And I had a cat that would come and just put. I think it sensed the rays of attention coming down from my head, and it would just sit right there on the drawing that I was trying to draw.
That's funny. So, all right. So you actually you mentioned two things that I was really intrigued to ask. First off, and actually, it's kind of funny. Yesterday, it was 4 years ago. Yesterday, that I actually interviewed your mom. I had that
Is that
honor.
right? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I cry a lot, so don't mind me. But I'm not going to cry today anymore. But that was a moment that truly meant a lot to me because your mom, Mrs. C on Happy Days, is
Mhm.
such an iconic figure that to me she was like another mother that I had. She was, and I always refer to her as like the ultimate mom. So, what was it like having Mrs. C as your real mom, and was there a similarity between your mom, Marion Ross, and Mrs. C?
Well, it's interesting. I get asked this question a lot because you're not the only person that feels that way about Marion, and yeah, it's funny because for me, Marion Cunningham is a completely distinct character. I mean, from
Right.
my mother. My mother was a very different kind of mother. Uh, Also great, and great in a different way than Marion Cunningham was. Marion Ross was very inspiring. Uh, she was a real scrapper. She had to fight for every inch. If you think
Hmm.
about it, a single mom with two kids, my sister and I, uh, still, relentlessly and kind of doggedly pursuing a career in television and motion pictures from an early age. And against all odds, she becomes this icon, and she did it by being really good at what she does, and
Right.
by being really super persistent and dedicating herself really fully to it. Right. So my sister and I both observed this, and whereas we didn't have supper on the table every night, not by a long shot, because my mom, Marion Ross, is not a terrific cook. I think Marion Cunningham is a pretty good cook. If I remember right. She always had a platter of something in her hands. My mom, not so much, but she had a few meals that she made very capably, but it was not her joy in life. Her creative side came out in her performing. So we would see her, learning lines uh, in the living room and over the kitchen sink where she was washing our hair,
Mm.
and she'd be learning lines, or she would do plays. And even when she was a working actress, on Happy Days, where she was, gainfully employed, she would still,
Sure.
in the off season, in the hiatus, do a play somewhere in Virginia, in Australia, in Seattle,
Wow.
wherever. And that's a lot of work. I didn't at the
Yeah.
time. I was kind of like, oh yeah, she's doing a play. Well, plays are fun and it's no big deal. But no, as a grown up, I realized plays are pretty tough. You got to hold it all together. There's no cutting. You got to
Yeah.
learn all the lines. Sometimes you got to go live out of town in a hotel. Sometimes the hotel's not so nice. There's a lot of things that make it kind of dicey. So she was a hustler, and always kept one thing that I think she has, to answer your question, part of your question. The thing that they had in common was that I think Marion Cunningham and Marion Ross both have a sort of a Midwestern positivity that
Hmm.
helps them to ride over any rough spots, and an assertiveness as well, but always very, I don't know, good in a good spirited sort of way. So
Right.
my mom was, particularly when she was uh, regularly employed as Marion Cunningham and had a little bit of like could take a breath from the bills and the mortgage and everything, and the responsibilities of being a mom. When she got that all kind of ironed out and things were sort of handled, she became a very expansive and inspiring person, and
Hmm.
always willing to deal with things from a positive viewpoint. She was not a worrier. She was not a person who got sick a lot. When us kids got sick with colds and stuff, she was not tremendously sympathetic, which in a way was kind of great because she wouldn't go, "Oh, darling, oh, honey, oh," she was kind of like, "Okay, well, can you go to school?" And we go, "Well, I guess so." All right. Or why don't you stay home a couple of days? Okay, all right, I'll stay home a couple of days.
That's That's funny.
Yeah.
So was then seeing her doing the acting and all that whole world, is that what kind of drew you in? Like, was the writing on the wall, like you were going to end up following in
No,
her footsteps?
no, I had to figure out really why it was, because it takes a tremendous amount of sacrifice. You have to like that's what your life is going to be. And
Yeah.
as you probably know, being an actor is, maybe you work this month, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't work for 3
Mhm.
months. Maybe, there's a lot of variables, and it's not like having a 9-to-5 job, which
Right.
everybody thinks is such a great thing. I've never been attracted to it myself, but
Me either.
yeah, it seems like a death sentence. But
Yeah.
for me, I had to figure out, well, why would I give myself to this? What I see the attractiveness of it when I was a kid, it was like, because
Mhm.
Happy Days was on when, there were 3 channels. I mean, there was
Right.
tens of millions of people would watch the show, not just a million people, tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
So it had a lot of attention, and therefore a lot of cats.
Mm.
A lot of cats would come there. Uh,
Yeah.
but I had to sort of sort out, well, is this just attractive because it's fancy and it's like, glamorous and all that, and flashy and interesting from that kind of, what I perceived as a kind of an empty point of view, or does it fulfill a purpose that actually aligns with my basic goals as a human being? And it actually took me quite a while to sort that out, because it wasn't obvious to me and it wasn't apparent to me. What's the nobility behind this career, And even today, I have to kind of evaluate it every now and then and go, am I spinning my wheels here? Is there a point to all this ridiculousness? But I eventually came to consider that, I've seen some amazing performances. I've
Mm.
enjoyed fantastic roles by brilliant actors. And it's excited and exhilarated me and given me a new outlook on life sometimes.
Wow.
And that is worth a sacrifice or two. That is worth struggling for, to somehow maybe get into a position where you can do that for people. And I've been fortunate. I've been able to do that from time to time. And it's the reason. It's the
Sure.
weenie.
So and I was shocked by this. You had mentioned earlier that you really got your start doing the cartooning and illustrating.
Yeah. I love to draw since I was a little kid. That was kind of my identity when I was younger. I was the cartoonist. I was the kid who drew funny cartoons. I did the yearbook and the school paper and all that kind of stuff. And it was a pleasure for me. I used to read Mad Magazine voraciously, and I would try to draw like those artists, and I still try
Right.
to draw like those artists. If I still draw a little bit just for fun. I don't have to, nobody has to tell me what to do. I like to have my art be completely free play, and just do whatever
Sure.
the hell I want to do. I have a cartoon contest that I've been running for years where I draw a cartoon, and now I put it up on YouTube and Instagram, and people can go and they can type in their captions for this cartoon, and I pick the funny one that wins and give them a little prize and a certificate, and it's amusing. It's a fun thing to do.
That's funny. So as you were doing the cartooning and the illustrating, um, I'm gonna just take a stab in the dark. Is that where like the voices and impressions started to happen? Did you start doing that, bringing those things to life?
Yeah. I mean, I think they kind of go hand in hand. I know a lot of successful voice artists and animation actors that are also cartoonists. That
Right.
they can create a character, and they enjoy funny characters and interesting animals and creatures, and they can draw them, or they can sculpt them, or they can act them out with their voice, or they can do all three. And it's a funny talent. It's a I flatter myself and others by saying that this is our way of bringing life to something. We can bring
Mhm.
life to things that are essentially non-animate,
Yeah.
and that's such a big part of what animation is and what culture is about.
So, what was there a voice that you remember that really got your own attention? Like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. I can do something here.
Yeah, I've really done it all my life, so I would do it to amuse my friends. I would do the Happy Days guys, and like I still do Ron Howard's voice sometimes because it's I know it really well, and we've all heard it over the years. And this is just it's kind of a grown up and master classy voice that he uses. And I don't know. Every now it's just a fun to try to target a character and see. Well, I wonder if I could produce that. Now my ear is very attuned, so if I hear a voice, I go, I know pretty much whether it's in my wheelhouse or not, whether it's in my timbre or my pitch area, whatever you call
Okay.
it. And then I go, well, then I analyze. I go, is that an accent that I know? I think that's kind of like this accent, and that's right in my age range. I'm finding it really hard to do people under 30 these days. That's got a tone quality to it that I'm afraid that ship has sailed. But and I can do lots of older characters now with great ease, whereas before I had to really struggle. Like doing Patrick Stewart in the old days was rather difficult. Now it's practically second nature.
That's amazing. Now, something I was really even thinking about, like doing impressions, and I was again going back to your YouTube channel and seeing you do Bohemian Rhapsody, where people throw out a name, and you're doing all these different names, singing a line out of the song. Can you sing yourself? Does Jim Meskimen have his own singing voice? Can you be
what a good question.
I'm like, can an impressionist have this amazing singing voice minus Elvis and everybody else they can do?
Minus other influences. Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, I have a friend, a female impressionist and singer, Christina Bianco, who I've performed with a few times, and she was on my series, Impress Me. She's usually over in London doing one thing or another, but she does a one-woman show where she sings beautifully like Celine Dion and Bette Midler and, I don't know, 15, 20 other women, Liza Minnelli and Barbara Streisand, but not in a spoofy way. I mean, she's actually, you look her up on YouTube because it's pretty astonishing. She has such tremendous control. She's a little lady and she's a little fireball, and she could just create so many different sounds. And then she also sings in her own voice. And when you hear her sing in her own voice, it's gorgeous. And you can, it's almost like a wine where you go, I detect notes of Streisand, and there's just a hint of, what are some of the other ones that she does? I can't remember, but there's just a flavor of some other performers, but that's just because we've been hearing her in the show do these other voices. So I think, I have, to answer your question, I have a lot of singing voices, and probably the one with the least bells and whistles is my own.
Is that something you ever wanted to follow in, or just no interest in it?
In singing? Oh, I love to sing. I do it quite often, and I do it for animation, and I've done it for video games. I did a lot of stuff for Jib Jab, if you remember Jib Jab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've continued to go on and do some great things, but in the beginning, it was all singing. I would sing like George W. Bush, and John Kerry. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would sing like him sometimes. And, to figure out the singing voice of these guys who you've never heard sing is an interesting mental exercise, to say the least. So a big part of, I've done stuff for Disney where I'm singing, for video games. Wow. And the tricky part is that I don't read music. Now, real pro singers, generally, like session singers, they can look at the music and they can read it, and I'm like, right, I got to memorize this. It's like my friend who's he's a personal trainer, and he's he got bar mitzvah, and he said he memorized all the stuff that you have to read in the Torah, and the rabbi has got a little pen, and he's supposed to, during the ceremony, tell you, here, now read this one, and he just kind of walked away from the Torah and just recited it from memory. That's kind of how I have to do my singing, but so far I've gotten away with it.
So now this is like it really is shocking. Like when you go back and you see your body of work beforehand, and then you end up on America's Got Talent.
Right. Yep.
So I because I just interviewed Rob Lake, magician. Last week I interviewed him. And he was on America's Got Talent a few seasons ago. And he was like, they came after me. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah they sought me out for 13 years.
Yeah, they fish around for people. Yeah, I that's what happened to me. I got approached by a producer who came to see me at a conference. I was speaking at a conference, and he said, would you like to be on America's Got Talent? I'm like, I don't think so. Isn't that for amateurs? And he said, oh, no, comics come on and it's public relations. It's, and I went, oh, I understand that. Okay. And they made it very easy for me. I didn't have to wait in a huge line or wait for days to get in and, really, try to please the judges. And I was like, you know what, I can take this or leave it, which is a great way to approach any kind of interview or audition. And so, yeah, I got all the way to Radio City Music Hall. So that was fun.
That's cool. That's funny. And the funny thing is, you were on the same season as a couple other people I interviewed from that season, but have become good friends with.
Nice.
Tone the Chief Rocka, who did the Booty song.
God. Yeah. Tone the Chief Rocka. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then there was another singer, Deanna Della Chapa, who I actually just did another interview with her a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Was it a good experience for them, or how did they?
Walk away from that? Yeah. They had a good experience. Tone's really not doing much, but Deanna, she's in the business and she's doing like you a lot of like commercials and stuff like that, and singing and vocal teaching now, and then she ended up on Master Chef, so now she's a chef. So she's doing everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I went through it. It was an interesting experience. I met some swell artists. All the performers were really interesting, and anything you do in the arts, even if it's a very mercenary thing like America's Got Talent or one of these reality shows, you'll learn something. You always learn something. You learn something about yourself. You learn something about the world and what is this, the entertainment world. There's infinite variety in what can go right and what can go wrong. And so, if you're not too hammered down by it and destroyed, you can learn quite a bit. So
now, something else it's that you've been doing for years. And as I go back and I was watching them, I'm thinking to myself, it's kind of crazy how the world of commercials has all these memorable characters, just like other things on TV, like shows or movies. And you've been in quite a few of those memorable roles on commercials.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do very few commercials these days. I'm sort of aged out of it a little bit. All the commercials that, or a lot of the auditions that I would get are for different medications that I'd rather not associate myself with. So various dysfunctions of one kind or another. And I'm sort of like, I don't know, can't we do something with soap or hot cross buns or something? But I do Colonel Sanders. Speaking of hot cross buns. And I've been doing Colonel Sanders' voice for quite a while now, about 6 years. You probably didn't even know it was someone like me, but that is what I've been doing. That's sort of my day job, which I appreciate.
Hopefully they don't pay you in that fried chicken.
No, I told them straight out. You can't be a poultry exchange. It's got to be a cold hard cash.
Oh, that's so funny. So you actually have a big show that's actually debuting this Sunday.
Yeah, this Sunday.
GASLIT.
I'm in GASLIT. That stars Julia Roberts and Sean Penn. I got to work with both those fine actors, and it's a Watergate drama. But it's kind of I've not seen it, but I've heard from my friend Raphael Sabarge, who's also in the show. He went to the screening of the big premiere in New York, and he said that it's kind of madcap, kind of maybe you'd call it a black comedy at times. As I say, I've not seen it, but I think it's going to be very entertaining, very interesting. We'll see how they treat those characters from recent history.
Yeah.
And I play a Senator Gurney. I'm in a couple of episodes, and I had a really good time working with the director, Matt Ross. He's terrific. And Sean Penn was fun to work with. He and I spent a really fun afternoon together, putting around on a putting green as the scene took place, and one of the scenes took place in a putting green. And he's under so much makeup that it was actually kind of nice, because I'm like anybody else. I get a little bit starstruck. I've worked with, people like Travolta and Matthew McConaughey and I've worked with some pretty big stars, and every now and then you get a little, you know, you don't want to be so nervous around people. It just seems to get in the way, right? And when I met Sean Penn, if you've seen the trailer, you know that he's a fat, bald man in the show, which in real life he is anything but. He's the opposite, right? So when this fat, bald man stood up and walked over to me and said, "Hi, I'm Sean," I said, "You are?" Could you say so? There's no evidence, but I guess if I look at your eyes really closely, can I see your dental records? You know, and it was kind of a nice reunion actually for me to because the guy that designed his incredible prosthetic makeup is a guy named Kazuhiro, who I met him when he was a fairly young makeup artist, new to Hollywood, Japanese, working for the great Rick Baker on The Grinch. And he was part of that makeup team, and he did Jim Carrey's makeup. He applied Jim Carrey's makeup every day for The Grinch. And I did lots of tests with Kazuhiro, and I got to know him very well. And he's a total genius. He designed the Winston Churchill makeup for Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, and he designed Sean's makeup. So it was nice to see him. I got to see him on the set, and it was like, oh my God, we met probably close to 25 years ago.
Wow. That's amazing.
He's done very well. He's done very well, I have to say.
He's terrific. He's one of the greats. He's fantastic.
Yeah, like I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, it does not look like Sean Penn.
No. And when I spent all afternoon with him, and I kept studying him. I'm like looking at the boy, you don't see a seam. There's nothing.
Do you like when you meet somebody like that who you maybe not met before, especially if you do impressions of them, do you start doing your impression of them?
Well, as you can imagine, it's not maybe the best way to introduce yourself to somebody. I have made that mistake before, and I've established a pretty firm policy that I don't do an impression in front of the person unless they're really in on the joke, which so far hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I mean, it's hard, if someone did an impression of me to my face, I would be probably defensive. Let's say it would make you defensive. Like, gee, that's what you think I sound like. Plus, we don't sound to ourselves the way the world hears us.
Right.
We hear ourselves through this wonderful chamber of the body, and it sounds warm and mellifluous and deep and sexy and marvelous.
And you get it out in the open air, you hear it recorded, and it sounds like this.
And everybody has that. And unless you've exposed yourself to your own recorded voice very often, there's always that kind of break and that kind of disenchantment with hearing your recorded voice. So it's another good reason to just not imitate people in front of them.
It's funny you say that because I remember like being a kid growing up and I used to think I did impressions good, like cartoon characters or, TV stars. And I was in my head, it's like, yeah, I sound just like them. And then one time, like I recorded it and I was like, what the hell is that? That's no good.
Yeah, if you want to live in blissful ignorance and be your own best fan forever, never record yourself. the minute you take it out in the open air, it's a whole new game.
Especially if you're trying to sing. That's a real eye opener.
Yeah, I guess so.
So all right, so this Sunday is
Sunday
just,
on the Stars
first episode
network,
comes out?
or the Stars channel. It's the first episode. They're going to show it one episode a week. They're going to do it old school. They're not going to drop it all on us at once, so we don't get to binge watch it until it's all out. But yeah, Stars is the network with a Z at the end, and right now it looks like they have my daughter and I were researching how come we don't have Stars. We don't watch this show, so we were looking it up, and right now they seem to have a pretty good deal, so you can get on and for like $3 or $4, and that's not so bad, and watch Stars and all the other programming they have. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Then I've got a show called Hunters on HBO, which I did an episode of, season 3. That's the Al Pacino Nazi hunting show. So I had a lot of fun with that. I can't talk about it, but I believe it's okay if I say that I played a German, but I'm not going to say why or where or how, but just that it's a very interesting show, and I had a great time working on it. And then I just wrapped, it's been a busy year, I just wrapped a series that I'm recurring in called The Big Door Prize. And that is from one of the creators of Schitt's Creek, which was a very funny show.
Right.
And this is a very funny show as well. And it stars Chris O'Dowd, the wonderful young Irish actor Chris O'Dowd, who I got to be very friendly with. He's a lovely guy. And that's a swell, funny show about how a fortune-telling machine kind of drops in the grocery store of this small town, and it uses high-tech data to tell you your destiny, your actual destiny. It spits out a little card that says what you really should be doing with your life. And that creates a lot of opportunities for comedy.
Oh, that should be interesting. Now, when's that come out?
The rumor is, I heard maybe October. We just finished the last episode about a week ago. The Big Door Prize, which it might be confusing because the show is not about, it's not a game show. There is no door prize, but it's called The Big Door Prize. And I guess that's a figure of speech, and it is the title of the book from which it was taken. But very funny, very clever little show. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Now, what's I see also too you guest starred in American Auto. What's that?
Oh, that's a new show on NBC. Yeah, they just finished season 1, aired. They completed that. I think the last one aired about maybe 3 weeks ago. And I played a character in that, which could possibly recur. I'd be very happy. He was a big automobile executive, and I got to wear a tuxedo, which was nice. And it's a funny show. It's about the auto industry and the characters that make it up. It's from the people that did that show Superstore. It has a kind of a Superstore, kind of a Parks and Recreation vibe to it. And yeah, it's a good show. I hope that they get picked up, and I hope that they call me again.
There we go. So yeah, it's we mentioned earlier back to the days of Happy Days when there was just 3 channels, and now we have 300, probably more with all the streaming services. Like I'm so out of the loop on there's just so much out there.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the amount of content, and then you have things like YouTube where you have access to so much. Yeah. I have a YouTube channel I've been feeding for years. I put content up. I think you mentioned daily content. I do the celebrity fortune cookie. I don't have the wheel close by, or else I would where I read a fortune in a celebrity voice. I break open the cookie and read the fortune in a different celebrity voice every day. And that's a fun exercise and keeps me fresh and puts me in contact with a whole bunch of people all over the world that are we become friends. They're fans or whatever, and then they write all the time, and we sometimes get on Zoom and chat. And
really,
it's just it's a fun way, because I'm used to being very in close contact with an audience. When I did improv in New York, we had this whole school and this theater, and we would. On Friday nights, we would go out with flyers and we would hand them to the passerby on 8th Avenue, and we would get them to come in, and then we would meet them, and then we would do a show for them, and then we'd stick around afterwards and say, so what do you do, and get to know people and make friends that way. Theater can be very social, and improv theater especially can be, it could be where you, who knows, you might meet your wife or husband that way. I didn't, but so it's nice through YouTube. At least we've got a kind of a community going, and TikTok and Instagram and whatever they're going to invent tomorrow. It's a way for people to reach out and get to know one another.
Are you on TikTok too?
I am. In fact, recently had a heartbeat on TikTok. I've got now 22,000 followers or acolytes or whatever you want to call them.
It's how do you keep up? Because like you said, it's work.
It's work. My daughter and I, we attack it. My daughter helps me with my social media stuff. She's 31 and very talented and very funny. And I hired her. She needed another part-time job, so I hired her to be my creative director. So we create all this content, and we just kind of attack it. We just spend 5 or 6 hour period per week just kind of creating content, and it's very,
awesome.
it's a fun father-daughter thing to do. Maybe not as fun as skiing or hiking, but it is creative, and for our skill set, it's and this is stuff I'm going to look back on, I'm sure, in 10 or 20 years, and look at the fun that I had before Taylor got married and had 8 children. Look at how much fun I had. We do a show together where we talk about father-daughter stuff. She asked me a question, I ask her a question. We speak very candidly about stuff, and that's a nice document to have, and
Sure.
people watch it, and it costs us nothing. So it's just like, how much time you want to put in, how many ideas can you get, what funny thing can you think of? And I like it because I get a lot of random ideas, and I have characters and I have impressions. And sometimes I'm driving along and I think, oh, this would be a funny little moment. How long is this? Maybe 20 seconds. Well, I could put that on TikTok, and so I go home and we shoot it. And like I did I had this idea just going through my head. I was like, of all the songs the Beatles wrote, the only song that could have been a Tom Waits song was For the Benefit of Mr. Kite from Sgt. Pepper's.
For the benefit of Mr. Kite, there'll be a show tonight, a trampoline.
And I thought of that idea, and I asked my daughter Taylor. I said, "Can you plunk that out on a piano, and we could make and we did a video of it." And I put on a little goatee and fluffed my hair up and had a cigarette in my hand. We did a whole. It's like 50 seconds long. I don't know.
Right.
And we put it up on YouTube, and a lot of people liked it. It was like, can we do this? And we figured out, yes, we can. And it was just a fun little project to do.
That's
and
awesome.
in the old days when I was growing up, oh my God, how would you ever do such a thing?
Exactly.
I had a Super 8 camera when I was a kid. I used to make movies where you had no editing, you had no sound, and the cassette was 4 minutes, maybe a little over. And so, that's a lot of limitations. Some guys did very well with it. I threw up my hands after a while and said, this is not workable. I had too many reels come back from Photomat that were completely black. I'm like, oh my God, I'll play on that. But now it's like anybody who has a phone can make a feature film. It's wonderful.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's
wonderful.
so amazing. Yeah, so amazing. Well, Jim, this has been great talking to you, and thank you for sharing many of your voices with us.
Well, you're welcome. I didn't share all of them. There's plenty more. This is Tommy Lee Jones' voice, so he's not using it right now. I imagine he's being very taciturn, just sitting in a corner, not saying anything to anybody right now.
That's funny. What do you think is your personal favorite voice to do?
Well, people ask me that a lot, and it kind of depends on the circumstance. I like to have a voice. I like to be able to comment on something in, whenever it's appropriate.
Like, for example, right now, I have to tell you, there's this strange creature perched on your spine that could be, who knows, maybe an enchanted sorceress who's been transmogrified into a feline form. I would be very, very careful if I were you. Beware the tail. It's like a scorpion.
Yeah, it's my new appendage.
It's wonderful. It's like this is Rick Baker tried to do something like that with the Grinch, where his little tendrils with little head things, he even had a little motorized thing that would fit into the skull cap of an early design of the Grinch so that they would move around like that. But I think it never worked out. But these should have just got a couple of cats, painted their tails green, stuck them on Jim Carrey. Would have been so low tech.
Oh, it's too funny. Probably would have been a lot of cheaper too for the budget.
You could have had it for tuna.
There you go. Jim, where's the best place? Is it your website? Is it YouTube? Where should we send everybody?
Yeah, go to YouTube. Go to Instagram. Go to TikTok, whatever you prefer. I'm on. Usually it's Jim Pressions at Jim Pressions. That's also my one-man show. And you can go to jimmeskimen.com. If you ever need a message, or you want a celebrity voice congratulating somebody, or for a phone message or something, I'll do it for you. You can go to my website and order it. It's real simple. Nice. And I'm going to have an online course launching very, very soon, within the next couple of weeks, in voice acting and impressions, and just in being a working actor. So if people are interested in that, keep an eye out for that, because that should hit social media pretty soon.
Awesome. Jim, good luck with everything. Congrats on Gaslit. Everybody check it out. First episode this Sunday on Stars. And when the Big Door Prize comes out, you got to come back and we got to talk about that more.
I'd love to. Yeah, then I'll be able to talk about it a little bit more. I can't really describe too much more about it. Great.
Awesome. Take care, Jim. Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.